Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Combluzier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. Today's webinar focuses on AuRista Exploration, which is a brand new private gold explorer focused on its Urban Berry project in Quebec. It is currently aiming to be listed on the CSE at the beginning of 2022. The company is led by a young and energetic team who I have with me on the webinar today, including both Spencer Tasker, who's president, and Brandon Johansson, the co-founder, and they'll be giving the presentation this afternoon. The format of the webinar will be comprised of two parts. Spencer and Brandon will provide an introduction to the company, and then in the second part, we'll take your questions live. So please submit them using the chat box at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can. To start, we'll handle the disclosures and then get into the presentation. So for AuRista Exploration, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the corporate presentation. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note that this webinar does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investments. Please see our most recent research located on our website for AuRista Exploration specific disclosures. So now I'll turn it over to Spencer and Brandon to introduce you to AuRista Exploration and what you have to look forward to with this brand new story.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So initially, Brandon, Mike, and myself were introduced to each other through a mutual business associate who is active in the resource sector. We were all keen on breaking into the sector prior to meeting and felt our individual backgrounds were quite complementary for forming a junior exploration company. We officially formed the company in March of this year and have been solely dedicated to AuRista since then. We were very fortunate recently to have Craig Pearman and Ming Jiang join our team. They both bring a wealth of experience to the team within the resource sector and capital markets. Furthermore, we have continued to build out our board with the additions of Doug Mason and Hani Zabani, both of whom have extensive market experience and have guided many companies through flotation and to eventual successful exits. Due to the recent additions to the team, AuRista now has collectively over 100 years of resource and market experience.
From day one, we have always had the same objective: to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the junior exploration opportunities and maximize our capital efficiency. As the old adage goes, there are multiple ways to skin a cat. Our take on this was to find 3 fundamental elements that we could concentrate our efforts towards, giving us the structure to follow through with our objectives. These elements consist of a tight capital structure, the way we evaluate and choose our properties, and our program execution. However, our objective to differentiate ourselves goes beyond our corporate structure and asset selection. As evidenced by this photo, we recently conducted an IP program, during which our team spent the entire duration of 2 months cutting lines and running the geophysical equipment, resulting in the completion of a more extensive program at nearly half the cost. Keeping a tight share structure is essential for any new exploration company, which is why we will be listing on the CSE with under 25 million shares issued and outstanding. This will allow us ample room for growth and future acquisitions in the years to come, but much more importantly, it gives us the ability to provide our stock with the required support for those crucial months following the listing. We have not yet determined an exact price for our IPO round, but are planning on raising money between 20 and 30 cents. Even with the most conservative calculations, this will give us the required funds to complete our upcoming program and any other exploration operations on the Urban Berry property for the next 12 months.
When setting our goals for the year, we wanted to be realistic, acknowledging COVID's impact on global industries. However, we've been pleasantly surprised with the rate at which we've been able to accomplish our goals. I can attribute some of this to how well the team has come together and how effectively all founders have been able to leverage their expertise, ultimately resulting in us funding, planning, and successfully executing our IP survey within the first 100 days of incorporation. The illustration here depicts AuRista's fiscal year, not calendar year, which runs from March of this year till March of 2022.
The Urbanberry property is AuRista's flagship. During our initial discussions, we developed essential criteria for selecting a property. Once finalized, we approached Canadian Nexus, a publicly traded investment issuer under the ticker TEAM, in hopes of finding a property that fit our requirements. Acquiring a property in Canada was important to not only eliminate currency risk, but also to be in a politically stable and mining-friendly region. A 100% interest in the property was also paramount to ensure that we can maximize shareholder value. We focused on finding early-stage assets to provide a good understanding of the property while maintaining its future potential. A clean ownership of the property was another important criteria, and these claims have been held by the same vendor since early 2000, while the property has only ever been auctioned off once. From a geological standpoint, we needed our property to be in line with the neighboring regional deposits. And after looking over 30 properties presented to us by Nexus, we finally settled on the Urbanberry property, as it was the only one that met every single one of our criteria.
So we were fully aware of the Abitibi Greenstone Belt and how it is one of the best regions for mining in the world, which is why we specifically directed our search in that area. We saw that the Urbanberry property was within 25 kilometers of 3 large deposits, as well as having 2 fault lines and 1 shear zone traversing the claim. Furthermore, the structures are on trend with the Windfall and Gladiator deposits. Frankly, we were quite surprised, actually, that the property was still optionable. Additionally, the property is accessible year-round due to well-maintained logging roads and the crossing of the St. Cyr River, making our property the only efficient crossing point within 80 kilometers north or south of the main access road. Therefore, the roads to our property are constantly cut and maintained.
Adding to the value of the property, the surrounding deposits are orogenic in nature. To this, the Mako Formation runs through our claims, and this is the formation that plays host to the surrounding deposits, including Windfall, Gladiator, and Berry deposits. While we were on the property conducting our survey, Osisko was actually conducting an early-stage soil sample program on the very eastern boundary of our property. And due to our strategic location, they had to drive through our property every morning, and we would always see them and say good morning to them.
Yeah, we actually loaned out one of our paddles so they could cross the river with theirs since they broke theirs. Aldever Resources is the only other company to explore the Urbanberry property. They completed 4 early-stage programs without fulfilling their option agreement. Their first program consisted of a property-wide ground mag survey, shortly followed by a 2-phase soil sample program. During the soil program, they took samples from the whole property at 200-meter spacing, and then took samples at 50 and 25-meter spacing to hone in on areas that contain traces of gold. This led them to finding the quite large 2 ounces per ton silver soil sample, which was later confirmed with a duplicate sample. In 2017, Aldever conducted their second program, which was an IP program, followed immediately by a drill program. Both the IP lines and drill holes ran parallel to the fault lines, traversing the property, and at no time in either program did anything intersect one of the structures. Nevertheless, the program still provided us with ample data to plan our IP survey. We adopted a hands-on approach, as Brandon said earlier, when it comes to running our IP survey, with all 3 founders spending 2 months on the property cutting lines and splicing wire to maximize our capital efficiency, which also provided us with an intimate knowledge of our property. Using the regional geological information from various government websites and the publicly released reports from our neighboring deposits, as well as previously conducted programs, we planned our survey to cross the shear zone as many times as possible, giving us the best picture to plan our drill program. We also aimed to cover the magnetic anomalies and the aforementioned silver anomaly. Due to our team working on the property, our program cost came in $150,000 under budget, with a total cost of $215,000. This far exceeds the exploration requirements for the CSC and the TSX venture.
We plan on using the drill targets generated from our IP program combined with all the historical and regional information to plan a very targeted drill program. We are currently in the planning stages and have been working closely with Minrock Management, a renowned geological consulting firm based in Ontario. However, our current goal is to only target Grid 1, leaving our second IP grid untouched and available for a subsequent drill program in the future. Due to our financial position post-IPO, we will have plenty of room to maneuver, allowing us the ability to conduct further programs as well as acquire other properties in the area. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. Feel free to reach out to us at any point in the future if you are interested in learning more.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Spencer and Brandon. So we'll now turn to the Q&A portion of the webinar, and just a reminder to everybody on the line that you can type in your questions at any point. So to start off, do you have everything, like all the data and information collected that you think you'll need to get those drill targets established so you're ready to hit the ground running, or is there any other work that needs to be done before then, aside from, as you said, and filtering through it and interpreting it?
No, we have absolutely everything we'll need. Our IP survey is currently being interpreted, and we're just waiting on those results. And then we're going to start the beginning phases of planning the program, and we'll get ranked drill targets from that interp as well.
Okay, great. So you'll be able to hit the ground running come the spring. Perfect. Okay. In terms of the project, as you said, you're lucky to be able to option it. Couldn't kind of believe that. Are there any existing royalties on the property?
The only royalty that's outstanding is a 1% NSR with an option to buy it back for $1 million, I believe, to 0.5%. Other than that, our option is to acquire 100% interest in the property.
Great. Okay. In terms of, looking down the road, I guess, obviously very early stage, but is kind of the plan to, get to a resource on the project? Is that kind of what you're hoping to get to in the near term? Is there a kind of a timeline on that given success?
Yes, our main objective is to define a resource on our property, as well as expand our land package that we currently have. We want to stay within the same region and the geographical area, and because this is what we know, and that's what we'll be looking to acquire in the future. So specifically, we'll be looking for properties with structures, seeing as all deposits are structurally hosted, and we're not going to be looking to do a land grab of just rather moose pasture, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Okay, so very clearly defined criteria for what you'd be willing to look at in terms of other property acquisitions down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay. And then I guess as well, given, again, kind of looking forward, I'm trying to kind of nail down the strategy a bit, given you're brand new, where you're looking at going. Is that, are you open to, down the road, say if you put that resource together to selling at some point, or would you really be looking to kind of go the distance with the project? Or is it too early for you guys to say at this point?
It's pretty early for us to say, but we are open to, an auction if it comes to that. It really just depends on the specific situation, but it's not, we're not totally shutting the door to that.
Mm-hmm.
And like Spencer said, we're looking to increase our land package in the area. So if we're going to continue to develop the property and hopefully define a resource. So we're, like you said, we're open to options, and if someone wants to present us with an offer, we'll definitely indulge that. But that's not our only objective, and we are more than willing to go the distance with the property.
Right. Great. Okay. Right now, looking at the gold space, lots of names out there. What are the key things that you would say are differentiators compared to other companies out there? Like what are the top 3 reasons that an investor should buy your stock?
Well, I mean, as we mentioned, we have a very hands-on approach to what we do. Very few companies have as much focus and drive that we do from what we've seen since we spent 2 weeks on our property cutting the lines and running the IP equipment, which really helped us out not only in saving money, but also in getting an understanding of the lay of the land on the property and getting boots on the ground. So planning our drill program will be that much more effective, seeing as though we have that image in our mind of what the layout is like, and where we can move and things like that, as well as our cap structure. I mean, we're going out the door with 25 million shares issued and out. Very few exploration companies do that.
Great. Okay. And then, turning back to coming up this spring, once you start work again, obviously the big focus is the drill program. Is there going to be any other exploration activities that are going on concurrently with that or subsequent to that in the coming year?
You want to take this one?
Yeah. For the Urban Berry property, most likely not. We would be looking to plan a subsequent program in the fall based off of the drill program, whether that's follow-up drilling or a more extensive geophysical program. But like we said, we're also looking to increase our land package, and we actually have 2 properties that we're still in negotiations with, but those are kind of in our pipeline for around the time when we start our drill program. So we'll most likely be doing an exploration program there as well.
And further to what Brandon said, due to the overburden in the area, which is a contributing factor to why it's very much underexplored, the most efficient exploration technique is geophysics and using IP equipment. So going forward, we will have that knowledge, and with these new properties that we will acquire, we'll be looking to make that our predominant use of early stage exploration prior to drilling.
Okay, great. Very, very simple story to start off with. So that's, very positive, very clear proposition for investors.
Mm-hmm.
I think going forward, lots of key catalysts coming up, and, given kind of what you've outlined, what you've accomplished to date so far in a short period of time, it's been a great success so far. So I think that's a key thing that people should be paying attention to as well. It's definitely a team that can execute and get stuff done quickly. So, if you have any final kind of, closing statements for listeners and maybe a key takeaway, that'd be a great way for us to wrap up the interview this afternoon.
Yeah, sure. So just about our financing round that we currently have open. We're currently raising money at 15 cents at a pre-money valuation of 1.9 million. Our pre-money or our post-money IPO valuation will be 6.8 million. And we'll be looking at doing 1.45 million in hard, and in the IPO round, around 20 to 25 cents. And then another 1.6 million in the flow through, around 30 to 35 cents.
Perfect. All right. So with that, I think that's a great place to end. So I'd like to thank both Spencer and Brandon from AuRista Exploration for taking the time to host the webinar today with Red Cloud Securities. And thank you to everybody on the line for tuning in with us.
Great.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.